Hi guys, it's been a minute. Haven't been on camera in a minute, had a hand, foot, mouth disease. My face is still a little messed up from it, but it's finally healed to the point where I feel like I'm at a state to record in person again. I know you've missed me. After UFC 304 and Tom Aspinall's historic performance against Curtis Blades defending the interim heavyweight championship, it's become even more clear, to the dismay of me and a lot of MMA fans, John Jones versus Stipe Miocic is without a doubt gonna happen. The boss man has confirmed this several times. We just haven't gotten a confirmed date yet. Looks like it's gonna be November, but whatever. And there are many feelings I have about this fight. There are many videos that I could probably make about this fight in the heavyweight division in general. I'm going to make a lot of videos about the heavyweight division. Don't you even worry. But one topic that has really interested me and has got me thinking is Stipe Miocic.
Champion of the world, Stipe!
Stipe is often regarded as the greatest heavyweight of all time by fans, and if you are familiar with the history of MMA, hell, combat sports in general, you will realize that is a very important title and a very prestigious one to hold. I mean, for a long time, the heavyweight division was the premier division in fighting, and if you were to hold the heavyweight title, you were without a doubt regarded the baddest man on the planet. And Stipe Miocic managed to rise in that division and not only claimed himself the baddest on the planet, but the baddest heavyweight of all time. I mean, he's set records in the division, having the most title defenses. I think he has the most title wins in the division. I could be wrong. Let me know if I am. The man's had a historic career with notable wins and finishes, giving us highlight reel moments over the years. But despite all of these accomplishments and despite all of these great performances, it feels like Stipe Miocic is not being treated like the heavyweight GOAT for this build-up with John Jones. To say Stipe Miocic has been counted out would be an understatement of understatements. I mean, to most people, you might as well have already put the win in John Jones's column. I mean, they're not looking at this as a fair fight. They're looking at this as a freebie for John Jones. Now, am I saying Stipe Miocic is going to win? Hell no, I'm not saying that definitively, but I am saying he's going to do better than you're expecting. He is not going to get mollywopped. What happened with Ciryl Gane is not going to happen with Stipe. I repeat, what happened with Ciryl Gane is not going to happen with Stipe. That will either age amazingly or horribly. Can't wait to find out which. Now, I know what you're thinking. Oh, but Stipe's old. Stipe's washed. Stipe's inactive. Stipe's this. Stipe's that. First of all, let's address the whole washed argument. I don't think it's fair to say Stipe is washed.
Before I continue on in the video, I forgot to mention in this that most of us thought the 3-year layoff would play a big factor with John Jones, especially because he didn't look very good against Dominic Reyes. So we could see a similar situation where, Stipe didn't look good against Francis, and then 3 years off a layoff, he comes back and looks good. So who knows?
Is he in his prime? Probably not. But I mean, we can't wholeheartedly say that he is washed up and he is bad now because we have no proof. We simply don't have proof of this. I mean, his last fight was against Francis Ngannou for the heavyweight title, and yes, he got knocked out. But to play a little devil's advocate and to, being defensive, Stipe, if getting knocked out by Francis Ngannou means you're washed, then man, we have to address the heavyweight division because there's a lot of washed fighters. Also, it's worth mentioning, if you compare the first Stipe and Francis fight to the second one, the Apex Octagon is so much smaller. Like, it's not even funny, bro. It is so much smaller, which did greatly affect the game plan of Stipe Miocic, because if you watch the first fight, a lot of the first fight, his game plan was moving around, using his movement to avoid the power punches of Francis Ngannou. And he would run around the octagon, take steps back, move around the octagon to avoid the power shots. But in the apex, you could see he took like 1 or 2 steps back. He was like, oh, this octagon is way smaller. I'm going to run into the octagon wall if I try to take another step back. Welp, I have no other choice. And with a split second to think, tries to throw the counter shot and gets clipped on the chin. Shit happens. And he hasn't fought since, which many will bring up ring rust, yada, 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 which I fully understand. Ring rust can be a thing, but I'm not fully confident it's going to be with Stipe. I mean, is he going to show up in his prime, at his best? Probably not. You'd be dumb to bet on that, but I don't think he's going to come to the fight a shell of his former self. I mean, to be honest, I think he probably made the right call taking some time off. I mean, he got knocked out pretty brutally, and if you just look at him during the fight and before the fight, it was pretty clear he was pretty burnt out. I mean, he just finished his trilogy with Daniel Cormier. He was just very clearly burnt out and needed some time off, and he got knocked out, which honestly, it's probably better to let your chin heal, your brain heal, to let everything just heal and to relax yourself instead of rushing back into the octagon too quickly. And I mean, Stipe is one of those dudes that does stay in shape year round. I mean, he is still training consistently. He's been doing his thing as a fireman, which shout out to him. Shout out to all the first responders. So it's not like he's on the couch like me and eating potato chips and not not doing anything. He is staying in shape and he's, healing up his brain, all that. So I do think that he won't show up with a horrible, horrible chin. I mean, Steve has been knocked out before and has been able to recover, which brings me into the whole old thing, which we can't count people out for being old in the heavyweight division. When will people learn this? Light heavyweight and heavyweight, we can't judge them the same we judge the other weight classes because age just doesn't play as much of a factor in those weight classes as it does with every other division because they don't cut weight. Or if they do, they barely cut any. I mean, Stipe has notoriously been a naturally lean heavyweight almost all of his career, so he doesn't really cut any weight, so he's always hydrated going into fights, which makes his chin heal a lot better than other people. And I think this historical longevity of heavyweights and light heavyweights should play a factor in this fight, as I don't think Stipe's age is going to hurt him as much as many people think. I mean, look at Glover. That man won his first world title in his 40s. I get he was more active, but hell, Glover was getting knocked out pretty brutally by Gus and Anthony Johnson and taking a beating from John Jones. And then out of nowhere, he just wins a belt at like 40 something, and it's like, okay, I see you. And if he shows up even a fraction of his normal self, I feel like he should give John a good fight. Am I saying he wins? Again, no, I'm not saying that, but I think he'll put up a fight. I mean, look at John Jones. What is the weakest area of John Jones's game, historically speaking? Boxing and boxing defense. And that's Stipe's bread and butter, baby. And if we start talking about grappling, I mean, look at Stipe's catalog. Stipe's notoriously a pretty damn good grappler for the heavyweight division. So I don't think that John can necessarily just ragdoll Stipe and bully him on the ground. I think a lot of this fight will be on the feet, and we do have a lot of unanswered questions about John Jones regarding his striking at heavyweight. I mean, we don't know how John really, really looks at heavyweight. I mean, we got like a minute against Surreal Gone, but despite that being a very good performance, it still leaves us with a lot of unanswered questions. Like, how will his chin look? How's his cardio going to look with the extra added muscle? How's his striking gonna look in the new weight class? Is he gonna be slower than normal? Like, there's a lot of unanswered questions. Can he take a punch from a natural heavyweight like Stipe Miocic? Because Stipe packs one fucking punch. You would be lying if you said that Stipe wasn't up there for the hardest puncher that Jon Jones has ever faced, because he goddamn is. And I think Stipe's style of being like just a dogfighter who likes to box inside the pocket, I think that will play a very big factor. Because historically, really, the best method against Jon is to make the fight ugly. Because let's face it, there are very few people who can go tit for tat with Jon Jones on a technical standpoint, let alone beat him in that. And I know Jon has risen above those dogfights and came out the other side with the win, but in those fights are where we see him at his most human. I think Stipe can make this an ugly fight, and I think he can brawl with Jon Jones. I think he can handle the grappling, and I think he can make this a fight. I think people have already moved on, and people are already like, oh, Tom John. People have kind of made it a foregone conclusion that, Jon and Tom is the needed storyline, and that it's gonna happen without a doubt. And people haven't even looked at the third man who's in this weird triangle, Stipe Miocic, and they haven't even thought of the possibility, what if Stipe wins? You answer me that. What if Stipe goes out there, lands a perfect shot, and he knocks out Jon Jones? Huh? What then? What then? I just overall think stylistically, Stipe has a pretty good style to fight Jon Jones, and I think it's not fair to say he's washed for the reasons I've stated. And also, I don't think we can necessarily use his age as a giant factor against him. Believe me, it's a factor, but it's not as big of a factor as it would normally be, because this is heavyweight after all. And also, when we look at the Francis knockout, I want you to answer me a question. When has Jon Jones brutally knocked someone out cold with his hands? That's what I thought. You can think of him head kicking DC and TKOing him. You can think of some spinning elbows. You can think of this, that, the third. Can you think of a time that Jon Jones landed one punch and put someone out cold?
No.
You can't. Jon Jones is not known for one punch KO power, which is important. Because if you're not going to put Stipe Miocic out cold, that man's going to fight. Because he got that dog in him. He's got that immigrant mentality, baby. Immigrant mentality. Look at the second DC fight. You can whoop Stipe. You can put him through the ringer. You can do what you want. If you're not putting him out cold, and if he's not dead, he's gonna fight, because he is a dog. Again, for the last time, I'm not saying that Stipe is gonna win, but if he does, or at the very least, if he puts up a good fight against Jon Jones, I want you to remember who told you to not count Stipe out. Just saying. Just saying.
Sent my bitch to the store because we ran out of soda.